Can you believe that people were actually surprised that Snoop Dogg lit up a joint before performing at the Super Bowl? I mean, it's not just that he's built his whole entire image around marijuana, but he's also invested in some of the world's fastest growing cannabis businesses. And those investments might just push him over into the billionaires club within the next few years. Because not only has he chosen fast growth businesses, but he's also become the face of one of America's fastest growing industries. Ever since marijuana has come out from the underground and become legal across many states, sales have skyrocketed. The United States cannabis industry earned a whopping $7.4 billion in 2019. But by 2025, experts project that annual sales will reach over $25 billion. And when you think of that sticky icky icky, you can't help but to think of the Dogfather too. In this video, we're gonna talk about how Snoop grew his image as the godfather of weed and how he leveraged his position to become one of today's most successful cannabis startup investors. And we're gonna get started right now. Calvin Broadus Jr., aka Snoop Dogg, was born on October 20th, 1971 in Long Beach, California, to Vernell Varnata, a military vet, singer, and mail carrier, and Beverly Tate, a church choir director. When Snoop was only 3 months old, sources say that Vernell abandoned his family, leaving Beverly as a single mother. However, she eventually married Calvin Cortazar Broadus Sr., and although he wasn't biologically related to Snoop, Snoop would eventually take his name as a junior. Like many kids in his Long Beach neighborhood, Snoop joined the Rollin' 20s Crips as a teenager. In 1989, he was arrested for the possession of cocaine and would be in and out of jail for the next 3 years or so. Later, he would be charged in a murder case, which he would eventually beat. But let's move on. Snoop's music career started back in 1992 after being discovered by Dr. Dre, who, by the way, will also go on to be one of the richest artists in hip-hop. His introduction as an artist came that same year when he was featured on Dre's song Deep Cover. In 1993, Death Row Records released Snoop's first solo album, Doggy Style, which debuted at #1 on both the Billboard 200 and the Billboard Top R&B Hip Hop Albums charts. And the album did numbers, hitting platinum within only 1 week and eventually going quadruple platinum in 1994. His next album, The Dogfather, also debuted at #1 on both charts. Then it went double platinum in 1997. All in all, he would put out 19 studio albums, with some of the most successful ones being The Game Is To Be Sold, Not To Be Told, which went 2 times platinum, No Limit Top Dog, The Last Meal, Paid the Cost to Be the Boss, and Rhythm and Gangster, all of which will go platinum. And that's where it all started, with the music. But Snoop will also go on to act in several movies, like Bones, Soul Plane, Training Day, and literally dozens of others. He'd also end up as the first hip-hop gangster to have his own daytime show, appearing next to Martha Stewart as the co-host of Martha and Snoop. And if that were the entire sum of all his accomplishments, he would still have enough money to last several lifetimes. But his music and television career isn't the only thing that's growing his estimated $150 million net worth. Because while many people look at Snoop as just a rapper, he's actually one of hip-hop's most sophisticated and successful investors. Throughout his career, Snoop made numerous investments in businesses, leveraging his likeness and fan base. He involved himself in everything from skateboards and malt liquor to foot-long hot dogs, mobile phone accessories, and streetwear. He even collaborated with Hustler at one point to create adult films. But around 2013, he had built up a big enough nest egg to start building businesses on a massive scale, and also start investing in some of the world's most game-changing technologies. It started with the digital stickers that he launched through the Snoopify app. Basically, users could buy digital stickers that featured his face, joints, and other random items to stick on their photos. Some of the stickers sold for more than $100 each, and the app as a whole was bringing in over $30,000 per week by 2015. In 2014, he made an investment into a new app called Reddit. The app was already gaining steam, and Snoop participated in its Series B funding round, which raised around $50 million. After this round, Reddit was valued at $500 million. Since then, the company's value has grown to over $6 billion, allowing Snoop to earn a 12x return on his initial investment. 2014 would prove to be a successful investment year for the dog. In that year, he joined Nas in investing in a $13 million Series A funding round for the investment platform Robinhood. At the time that Snoop and Nas invested, the company was worth around $62 million. But since then, Robinhood has grown at remarkable levels and is worth over $32 billion today. Both Snoop and Nas saw their investments multiply from this deal, putting them both on the road to billionaire status. If you haven't seen the video we did on Nas's investments, I'll link it up here somewhere because his story as a startup investor is something that you have to hear about. In 2015, Snoop really ingrained himself in the emerging cannabis sector, launching Leafs by Snoop, which produces marijuana flowers, concentrates, and edibles, along with a ton of accessories like vape pens, rolling papers, grinders, and more. Also in 2015, he followed in the footsteps of his cohorts, like Nas, who started Queensbridge Venture Partners, and Jay-Z, who started Marcy Venture Partners, and he started his own venture capital firm called Casa Verde, which translates to greenhouse. And if you couldn't guess it by the name, Casa Verde had one goal: to invest in weed companies. Since its launch, Casa Verde has invested in at least 33 cannabis-based businesses. The first investment that the company made was participating in a $10 million Series A round for the cannabis delivery company Ease. At the time that Snoop invested, Ease was on the come up and had processed more than 30,000 medical marijuana on-demand deliveries. The founders used the investment to quickly grow the business across California. Today, the company operates in both California and Michigan, with over 7.6 million deliveries completed, 2 million registered customers, and $190 million in annual transaction value. As of 2021, the company was valued at $700 million, bringing Snoop a major payday and lighting up his investment portfolio. Then in 2017, Casa Verde invested in Leaflink, a wholesale management platform that connects cannabis brands and cannabis retailers. Casa Verde joined Leaflink's seed round, where they raised a total of $3 million. In 2017, at the time that Snoop and his firm invested, Leaflink had just hit $100 million in annualized orders through the platform. By 2019, they had already reached over $1 billion in annualized orders, meaning that the platform was used to process over 16% of all US wholesale cannabis transactions. All in all, to date, Leaflink has raised more than $379 million in investor funding. Now, I don't know what Leaflink's valuation is today, but it was worth $38 billion in 2017. And seeing that it more than 10x'd its market position by 2019, I have to make the blunt assumption that Snoop got paid from this deal. In 2018, Casa Verde started a relationship with Duchy, a company that charges cannabis dispensaries a monthly fee to create and run their websites and manage their online orders. It started with an investment into the company's seed round, where Snoop and his firm were the lead investors on a $3 million raise. Since then, Casa Verde invested in Duchy's Series A, where they raised $15 million, its Series B, where they raised $35 million, and its Series C, where they raised $200 million, and their Series D, where they raised $350 million. Back in 2018, when Snoop invested into its Series A, Duchy was valued at around $1.7 billion. However, after closing its Series D, the company's valuation had increased to over $3.75 billion. Now, the company hasn't been acquired yet, but I would bet my entire bank account that they're going to be acquired soon. Because when valuations get that high, acquisitions and IPOs usually follow. And speaking of acquisitions, Duchy is already acquiring other companies. In January 2022, they acquired Leaflink and Greenbits, which is another Snoop-backed cannabis company. Greenbits is a cannabis retail platform that serves medical dispensaries and recreational retailers. Casa Verde initially partnered with Greenbits by participating in a $3 million convertible note back in 2017. Later, the firm joined their $15 million Series A round and their $23 million Series B round. The terms of the acquisition are undisclosed, but if the company's fast growth is any indication of its acquisition price, I'm sure it paid back Snoop tens of millions of dollars, especially since Casa Verde participated in multiple funding rounds even in the earliest stages. Now, I know that we're mostly talking about Snoop's cannabis investments, but there's another investment that I feel like I should mention. In 2019, Snoop became a minority shareholder in Klarna, a leading global payment provider. At the time of his investment, Klarna was offering buy now, pay later services through 100,000 retailers in Europe and across the United States. Klarna was one of Europe's fastest growing unicorns, with a valuation of $2.5 billion. But since then, the company raised an additional $639 million in funding and now has a ridiculous valuation of $45.6 billion. Now that's the type of investment that I'm sure Snoop was hoping to roll up on. As I mentioned before, through Casa Verde, Snoop has invested in more than 30 different companies, so I'm not going to get into all of them. But if you want to learn more about the other cannabis companies that Snoop has invested in, then leave a comment down below and I'll be more than happy to spark up a part 2. Snoop very well may be hip-hop's next billionaire, but he definitely won't be the first, because that's a title that will forever be held by none other than Jay-Z. And if you want to learn how Jay-Z built a $1.3 billion empire, we have a video right here that will walk you through his entire investment portfolio. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our updates. We put out a new video every week and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, take care and keep creating amazing shit.